There, there we go. So I am here with Frank Meeink.
All right.
He became a skinhead at age 13. By 18, he was roaming the country as a skinhead leader and neo-Nazi recruiter with gangs that would beat people indiscriminately. In Illinois, he had his own cable access TV show, The Right. He was finally arrested and convicted of kidnapping and beating a member of a rival skinhead gang. He later turned his life around, and he now, speaks for racial harmony. And I was surprised, that you're actually speaking at an event, to speak against anti-Semitism, in Florida. How did that transformation happen?
Wow. It was for one, I gotta give all credit to God. I mean, that's what the change was, and it's all the change came from him. So I don't take any credit for any of this, because all I really have ever done was walk myself into minefields. I'm just one of those type of people, and for whatever reason, man, God allowed me to change and learn. And so what happened was, like, I was really radicalized, man. I grew up poor. I'm not going to give everyone a sob story. I grew up poor, like a lot of other people, and they didn't get radicalized. I grew up spending food stamps as a kid. Other people didn't do that and get radicalized. I just happened to be one of those people. It was tough until I joined up with this group that really, I thought, listened to me and that cared about me and gave me some security and all that, all the stuff they talk about. And that's what happened with me. And so, I got very active in that group. I'm just one of those type of people, and I recruit people. I like to get people into things. I've always been that way, even years out of the neo-Nazi years. It's the way I do. I worked for marketing, for hockey teams and hockey programs, and so I just like to build things and get people involved and stuff sometimes. Anyhow, I got so involved in that group, though, man. I got to tell people the truth is that when they talk about being radicalized, when I was hiding out, because I was hiding out in safe houses in Indiana, hiding out, Virginia Beach, hiding out, just running with this crew of people all over the country. And if I would have walked into a room and one of them would have said, "Hey, here's the keys to a truck. It's got a bomb in the back. You're going to go drive it up to the spot," I would have said, "Okay."
Wow.
No doubt. That's the truth. And
Even
you look at what I've done.
looking at the potential prison time, committing an act like that, you would have did it, just like no questions asked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, because it was for the movement, it was for the good. And that's what people got to think. I know it's hard to, I'm not saying that, like, I knew there was an evil streak in that movement, no doubt. But a lot of the people that are in there, they don't believe that what they believe is evil, right?
Yeah.
They believe that it's good. They believe that, yeah, I'm protecting the white race because I see what's going on in inner city and I don't want that in my town. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
I mean, you see that.
man, when I finally got put in prison, man, for kidnap somebody, um,
what were you saying?
you
You
broke up.
when you finally got put in prison, what were you saying?
Oh, got you. No, when I was just, when I was in prison, I was running around with my Aryan crews and gangs in there, and but I was also a 17-year-old Philly kid in the Chicago East St. Louis basic prison system. I was in the Department of Correction, Illinois Department of Corrections, um, and a lot of my Aryan guys and the guys that were my crew in prison were all bikers. That's what they were. It was all gang of bikers I was running with in there, and I never been on a Harley in my life, but I've been on the L train.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've been on the L train, so there was times when I could catch with some friends, and I'd make friends. There was no like gang war, major things going on a lot where I was. So it was people talked with each other, we dealt with each other. It was, and I just became cool with a couple guys. You know what I mean? You just guys I play spades with, guys I play dominoes with, guys I talk shit with all the time. You know what I mean? Because I like that same Philly or city slang where I could talk shit about somebody, and those guys did the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I'm getting released from prison, unlike the movie American History X, I didn't get out of it while I was in prison. I got out of that when I was still involved all the way to the end, because it was my life. I just thought what's going on in prison happened in prison. Like, it's cool. You know what I mean? Not like You know, they always say you're gay for the stay, and I'm not saying that happened because I never had to worry about that stuff in my life when I was in there. I was a very well protected guy. Never once did I go into prison thinking, "Oh my God, I might be raped." I knew, like I knew I had a TV show on the outside for the movement. You know, you don't think they're going to take care of me in there? You know what I mean? So I knew I was cool. So I had that with me the whole time, which was a gift from God, straight gift from God to be out. I wasn't ever worried about, oh my God, those guys are going to get never. You know, never even cross. I'm not sounding tough. It's because I had a big crew of bad dudes who took pleasure in protecting the guy with the TV show, you know? So, and they were cool, man. Some of them were super cool, fun guys, you know, life, you know, bikers are cool, everyone's cool. And there were a bunch of cool guys up in there,
Well,
you know, guys you would chill
like
with.
with any
So anyway,
organization, like, you know, was there ever infighting? Because, like, you know, I feel like, you know, like with gangs and stuff, there's, like, you know, certain disagreements in jail or prison, you know, over, like, you know, certain
yeah.
situations. You know, it could be like it's something as small as like over, like, you know, someone leaves and then there's commissary and they're arguing about, like, you know, how to divide up the commissary.
Um, yeah, no, that didn't like no. If there's ever a hit or a job done or a mission, whatever we want to call it, whatever you want to call it, there's already set like you get this, the group gets this, you get to keep that. You know what I mean? Because they wouldn't be able to do the robbery if it wasn't that they had our back, it had the group's back. So you gotta pay. You know what I mean? The whole reason why you get to be a criminal inside there is because you're with us. And it wasn't always like criminal activity. I mean, you know, robbing pedophiles and stuff was very common. You know what I mean? Like we, you know, always look for that. That was, yeah, every gang does. Like I'm not saying me myself, but um, anyway. So
How,
um,
like, after you left prison,
go
did
ahead.
you, like, you know, get on the path to change your life?
So yeah, I sorry guys. How I started changing my life was you know, I started going back around some of some of the Nazi groups when I got out. Of course, it was my friends. That's right on my pull. That's my crew. It was my cousins. um, and I remember I just went back and I went back and I had like I should have been like had all this clout because I just got out of prison and I did. I mean, I had people at parties for me and stuff when I got back to Philly. You know, and I got jumped later on, but that's after I got out. Um, but when I would go to these things, you know what I mean? And I remember people would say stuff about black people, you know, just, you know, the same common stupid old racist jokes, right? And and I remember there was times I was sitting in a group and we're all talking, I was talking racist shit, you know, and I would just look there and I would hear someone say something that's really stupid. And I wouldn't say anything in the group like, that's not true. Not all black people are that way. Come on. You know, I didn't have the cojones at the time to do that. Or I just didn't want to do that. I was just sitting in these meetings going, what the hell? Like, are you serious? And then, you know, and being through the prison system and stuff, I did kind of see the kid getting 16 years for crack, why I only got 3 years for kidnapping. You know, I mean,
Right.
I seen it, factual in my face. But good dudes. There was a lot of good dudes in there that were in that Illinois Department of Corrections, obviously because of Chicago and East St. Louis. It was a packed prison system. So, but there were some good dudes up in there. Um, Guys that shouldn't have been doing time. They shouldn't. They should have been in school. Um, and I seen that. So I'm not going to get up in the middle of a neo-Nazi party group summit and go, you know, the justice system is kind of set up against, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm starting to feel it, see it. It's like, all right. Then this Jewish doctor, it's fun. This Jewish antique dealer um, gave me a job. And now, when I was in the neo-Nazi group, I was still like, you know what? I'm still going to come around and hang out with these people, but I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to really, when they talk about black people, they talk about Latino people, I'm just going to kind of just whatever. But when we have the Jews, that's where I'm going to hit them like that because I still had all this ammunition and I didn't know any Jewish people. I didn't know really any Jewish people, you know, that I knew of.
And the
Um,
irony of it is, though, like, you're
so
actually Jewish, like, you know, ancestrally. Like, I was looking on your Instagram page and, like, you know, you did a DNA
yeah,
test
I
and
just found that out. So, yep, yep,
how
yep,
surprising
yep,
is
yep.
that,
Sorry,
though?
it looks like
How
shit.
surprising is
Um,
that, though?
um, It was amazing, man. I want to be honest. Like, well, see, because let me just back up real quick. Um, this Jewish man gave me a job doing antique furniture, became a mentor in my life. It was this amazing man. Said a lot of things at the like, you're all right, Frank. You know what I mean? You're smart. I'll tell you one thing that always stuck with me because I used to always, because I'm an egomaniac with low self-esteem. That's what made me a neo-Nazi. So ego gets hurt, my quickest defense, and a lot of us are like this. You know what I mean? We're like, oh man, I'm so stupid. What am I even doing? I'm too stupid. Like I just had that a lot with me. And one day, man, I said something about me being stupid, and Keith said, "Stop saying you're stupid, you fucking idiot." And we get in the car, and he says, "Frank, smart people can fake being dumb, but dumb people can't fake being smart. You're just smart. Like, just get over it. Like, accept it." And I was like, and he told me about how I was one of the smartest people he knew, and I don't want to say I was the smartest person he ever met or anything like that, but he was like, "Yo, you're one of the smartest people I know," and that was one of the final days. And just real quick, man, because this is what this is not the problem in America. This is the situation in America. Racism today is um, the exception rule. I hate all black people except for Rodney. And I'm not saying I'm talking about America. This isn't me. Just hate all black people except for Rodney. Rodney's cool. Yeah, I work with Rodney. He's a good dude. And me and Mike went to school, man. He's a down guy. I really like that guy. But the rest of them, you know, I hate all Mexicans except for Jose. You know what I mean? Jose's cool. I mean, me and him known each other a long time. John's cool. He dated my sister, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Like, there's all these little. I don't hate them, but the rest of them,
Right.
I hate. And I hate it sounding like that, man. That to me sounds. When someone says stuff like that, it just goes, "Are you a moron?" And I don't mean to be judgmental of the person, but that's what I want to say in my head. Like, "Are you a moron? Do you hear what you're saying?" Like, all the ones that they're okay, but the ones you don't know, that's American racism today. That Donald Trump said it. They're drug dealers, they're all this, but I assume some are good people. Same thing, man. It's the same thing. So I got into civil rights for a long time, just to make the story shorter. Really in civil, I worked in civil rights for about 25 years, man, in all aspects, from with helping with civil rights laws and hate crimes, you name it, man. I was helping. So I want to help. But and then about 7 years ago, it was almost maybe 8 years ago, I was doing a documentary about something, and I was interviewing a friend of mine who's a rabbi in Des Moines, Iowa, and he started telling me that he thought I was Jewish. So I was writing about it on social media, and a couple of my uncles were like, "Yeah, and my one uncle. Now I got to remember this, and this is because I forget it for a long time. When I was about 15, my uncle, who I wasn't really fond of, he was kind of a jerk guy. He just was. I mean, all the cousins didn't like him. He just kind of just. We always just like stayed away from him. He he told me at a dinner, when I was a neo-Nazi, he goes, "We're Jewish, right?" And I was just like, but I thought he was messing with me. You know what I mean? I really did. I didn't think that was really true. Like, I thought he was just saying that to like get me out of the neo-Nazis. You know what I mean? He was just, so I brushed it off and was like, whatever, we went on to talk about something else. So when I was writing about the Jewish thing, he wrote in and a couple other people wrote in and said, "Yeah, So I went and did the DNA test and found out it was true.
Wow.
And at the time was very much struggling with a connection with a higher power, or with the creator, whatever you want to call him. I was having a real hard time connecting with that. I was struggling. And when I found that out, I said, well, and I was going through my struggles, I said, "Man, let me check into this. Let me check into this religion. There's a path. It's not really a religion. It's a path." Anyway, and I won't talk too much about Judaism because I've only been practicing for 4 years. So I can't give you Jewish lessons or it's a rabbi's job. I mean, I could tell you about what I do, but I can say that we have mitzvahs, we have commandments to follow, and I like having them in my life daily because it keeps God at the forefront of my mind. That's all. And Judaism does that the best for me. and I practiced, and now I'm a practicing Jew. And I'll tell you a funny story, and then you can ask another question. But so before I became a neo-Nazi, I heard people always say racist jokes. You know what I mean? Just neighborhood racism. You know what I mean? You gotta hide this stuff. And I remember whenever someone didn't give you the right money back, someone would always go, "Yo, John, why are you trying to Jew me?" Or Johnny tried to Jew me. Johnny didn't give me the right change back. He tried to Jew me, right? And I used to always hear if anyone picked up a penny, if you pick up a penny, someone go, "What are you, a Jew? What are you, a Jew picking up pennies? How do you start a Jewish parade or roll a penny down the street?" Right? I used to hear those jokes when I was a kid. Never got the joke. One of the ways I became a neo-Nazi was when I asked one of my uncles one time, when they said one of those Jewish jokes, I happened to say to him, "What does that mean? Like, why is it funny when you say Jewish people with money?" And so my uncle starts to explain it to me, and I was maybe 10 or 11, whatever. I just remember this. And he said, "Well, see, Frank, the Jews, they're kind of notorious for money." And then he stopped himself and um, he said, "Frank, you'll get this when you're older. Like, you'll get this funny. It's a funny joke, but you don't get it now. But when you get older, you'll get that joke." Well, when I was at one of my first neo-Nazi rallies, man, and I heard this guy talking about the Jews and they're stealing from the Federal Reserve and blah 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 blah, I got the joke. I must be older, right? I must be older, and I got the joke. That was one of the things that unlocked. Well, the funny thing is about today is that I always tell that penny picking up joke, and I tell it at synagogues. I tell it whenever I'm at temple, or whenever I'm doing my talk, I always tell that joke. Well, this older Jewish man pulled me to the side one day. This was a couple of years ago, right when I started to follow the faith. He pulled me to the side and just said, "Frank," he goes, "I do pick up the penny." And this man seemed very well together, nice suit, he goes, "I do pick up the penny every time." He says, "You know why? Because that's a free charity from God to remind me to give double to charity, because he's going to give this to me for free." And now, dude, I'm one of the most penny picking up Jews you'll ever meet. I love that. I keep a whole big thing. I just emptied it, but whatever change I find and I put in my charity, and when I fill it, I bring it to the food bank up there, and anytime. And if I find a penny, I put two in. And I do that every day. And if I don't find money, then I put my own money in there. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. So now I'm penny picking up you.
You're an incredible speaker, man. I remember when you came to my college in 2010, I was telling you about that before when we were setting up the interview. And I remember they actually had state troopers in front of the schools, Illinois College in Jacksonville, around 2010. And I'd never seen anything like that. Because most of the speakers that came, it was very laid back, low key, just walked in. But I remember that anticipation for the event, because it's it's packed. A lot of events, unless it was a big speaker, and that stuck with me. Out of all the people that came and spoke, and we had a lot of good speakers, throughout the course of my college career, but I always remember you speaking. What is it like, being no longer a skinhead, involved with the neo-Nazi movement? Are people sometimes suspicious of that or critical?
Like, that they think I'm still a racist or neo-Nazi?
Right. Because I have this guy on stage. He says his name's Talib Kweli, and he says that white supremacists can't change, or Nazis, that just doesn't
Wow.
always be that.
Wow. So he's got the job of God today? He has the job of God?
No,
That
he thinks he
he can
does.
say changes, right? I mean, seriously,
Right.
if who's anyone to say any human being can change? There's rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, all those things that are millions of people changing their lives. So that's his opinion. Good for him. I know I don't play God today, and I know that anything is possible.
100%. Yeah, man. I love the work that you're doing. I remember when you were doing a hockey league for kids. You were talking about that. Do you still do that?
No, 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 no. I mean, so here I forget what you said your friend's name was, but I'm gonna tell you what I do now. And and you tell me if I changed, okay? And you could, anyone, and I don't do this for someone to think I changed. I know what my job is on this planet, from my servitude to my God, and I'll tell you what I'm doing today is. I've always been against like mass incarceration. Like
Yeah.
it's where I want people to listen, and I'll say this twice, and I don't mean to sound arrogant saying it twice, but I want to say this twice. We have 30, I want you to really get the numbers and listen to this. We have 34% of the world's women's prison population. We're only 4% of the world's population. 34, I'm going to say again, we have 34% of the world's women's prison population, mostly nonviolent, by the way. We're only 4%, 4.5, or not even 4.5. I think we're like 4.4% of the world population. Something's wrong. And I got to testify in 2020, and anyone can go look this up. It was on C-SPAN. I testified in front of the Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Subcommittee of the United States government about old friends of mine that were neo-Nazis who all became cops. Wow. And how fucked we are when that happens. Do you know those guys get to pull black people out of their cars at 10 o'clock at night because they didn't use their blinker? Now they get to pull you out of your car and search you and treat you less than a man, and sometimes in front of your children. Fucking yes, this is America, and our government has the right to do that with policing, and they mostly do it to black people, right, and people of color and poor, and the poor. That's how they built mass incarceration. Messing with the poor and people of color at traffic stops. I'm telling you, it's a real solution that we can get all behind. Because if you're all for your constitutional rights, that's our Fourth Amendment. Yeah. Our founding fathers gave us that Fourth Amendment for a reason. And the police, through their lobbyists and unions, have broken it by using the war on drugs, using the smell of marijuana still. No matter what state your state can legalize marijuana all you want. If it's not federally mandated legal, they're still going to search your car over it. It's a trick. It's a trick because they're going to say federally, you know what I mean? They still play the game. It's a big business for them.
Like I'm a huge proponent of Fourth Amendment rights too. Like, I don't know if you're aware about airports for black people, they're more likely to be searched. Like it's happened to me a few times, like, when I'm just flying and they're like, we got to report that you have drugs. Let us search your bags, and stuff, even though like I don't have, okay, you can search it, but it happens to like, black people with like an alarming rate compared to other members of the population. What do you think, like, as far as like laws that can be done? Because like, it seems like police have this indiscriminate power in America, like, where it's like, it's really hard to like report them for wrongdoing, because they always seem to be able to justify it unless like, there's an incident that's captured on camera where they've killed someone wrongfully. They really don't like, face many consequences. And even then it's very unlikely that they'll face jail time. So like, how do we solve that problem?
Yeah, well, we are going to solve it. I mean, we're eventually going to get this. Like, so one of the reasons why I do what I do too is that we have to be real with some things. One is, the Fox News and the racist and all the groups keep saying the great replacement theory, right? You hear that all the time?
Yeah, I've heard it, yeah.
Or the great replacement, saying that, and it's that the Jews are secretly going to brown America and change America by making it brown people. So here's the truth. Yeah, that is going to happen. Right. It's inevitable that we are going to change. Americans in 300 years from now, we're going to be all one. We're going to be one color with different shades of that color. Like, it's just, we're going to go back to almost looking Native American in a way, but it's a new tribe. Or we're a new tribe. We're a tribe that's just forming, and there's no one that can stop it. It's impossible to stop because we're all going to, there's enough of us here now, no matter what, that you could stop immigration right now, today, not let another person in this country. This is still going to happen to us. We're going to merge as one tribe within, and we're going to look back on this stuff and go, what were we thinking? Holy crap. Mass incarceration of the poor and of women?
Yeah.
Like we're going to look back on that and go, oh my God. And we're going to say, oh, that was when we still were trying to get rid of systematic white supremacy. Systematic white supremacy, which is ruled with the police lobbyists and unions in the Supreme Court, that, yeah, you could pull all people out of the car all the time, like a third world country. Yeah, it's like a third world country.
The
Because you
criminal
know why
justice
all them cops.
the criminal justice system in this country is horrible. And I think, like, one of the huge problems is that it's very hard, especially if you don't have any money, to prove yourself innocent. And, like, one of the things that the judicial system does is they'll lock people up. And, like, especially during COVID, you saw, like, where people, like, they'll give you a continuation after continuation, until, like, a person pleads out, maybe even to something that they didn't do, like, so, like, do you feel
Yeah,
like, that the change, like, for the criminal justice system is something, like, that is solvable in our lifetime, where, like, we have
yep,
judges, like, even if you get a public defender, they're working with the state, what they call them is public pretender. So if you're poor, you're black, even if you're
mm-hmm.
poor or white and you have to take a public defender, what's the odds of you, like, getting a fair trial? Like, is your guarantee if you can make it to trial? Because, like, a lot of
Yep,
times and stuff, everything, they just continue it so much that you're like, okay, I'll take the plea,
yep.
because it's like, time served after, I want to get out of
But
here.
and that's the thing, man. That's how they built this system, and we can change it. That's what I mean, like, all right, I'll give you a great example, and how it even has a great spiritual thing to it. So we had prohibition from 1920 to 1933 or whatever it was, and we had and then that was the 18th Amendment. The prohibition was the 18th Amendment, and then the releasing of prohibition was the 21st Amendment. It's the only amendment that we went back and fixed already. Like the other ones we haven't. That's the only one we've ever gone back and corrected is the 18th Amendment, and
Right.
we started to allow drinking again. Um, we had a huge problem here with underground, just like drugs. It was at the time, like Al Capone and all that was built because of this prohibition on alcohol, made mobsters and gangs, and people were drinking themselves to death, and they had they made asylums and stuff to put these people in, and they couldn't, they were having all this trouble with these alcoholics. So when they lifted prohibition, though, everyone was like, what are we going to do? Well, only 2 years later from when they lifted it, this group called Alcoholics Anonymous was founded. Which now I'm not trying to promote it. I don't promote that. I'm just giving you a fact, like a spiritual fact. 2 years later, we Americans create this organization to help people stop drinking, and it's one of the only things in the world that works. It does. Um, that has now been spread all over the world. It has saved millions of people's lives and saved families and saved children from having horrible upbringings in drug addict and alcoholic homes. We did that in America. Right after prohibition was lifted, God said, I'm going to give this to you so you can spread that.
Now, I wanted to
He didn't give that to
ask you a question real quick, because I was researching for the interview, and one of the things and stuff that I looked up, it was an article on NPR, and it was asking the question, why are white nationalist groups targeting LGBTQ groups? And I wanted to know if you had any insight to that.
Oh, I mean, it's why do they focus or put more focus on them a lot? Fear. It's fear. They fear that a lot of people fear that their son might turn into that, and that's oof, I don't want to picture my son doing that, being that way. So that's the general reason. But their real reason is what they think is it's biblical. God said they shouldn't do it. Now again, they're playing God. Because God said, go play me today and go judge people for me. Like, so that's what he wants. Not for us to show love and kindness and compassion. And, because that's not what my God talks about. But it's biblical. It's fear-based, and it's a chance for people to look down on other people. And guys, no matter what, and people can listen, people say I don't change, but all human beings have it in them. if I get to look down on that guy, because I feel a little better about myself. And people have it to higher degrees and less degrees. Yeah.
Man, I definitely believe in the people ability for them to change, and I see that in you. One last question is the 2024 election is coming up. The GOP, they have a mantra, America is not racist. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, like I said, about the Republicans is, you know, even when we make this tribe that we're talking about that's coming, that's indefinite, and no one can ever stop it. And, but the Republican Party and that type that are going to talk about, breaking away from America, getting the divorce from America, building their own little homeland up in Idaho. The truth is, and this should be in front of everyone's eyes right now, is that if they ever got their own little homeland, like in Idaho and the Trump land, whatever you want to call it, it would break up in 10 years. Look how the Republican Party fights amongst themselves already. Imagine if we put them all in the same place. You're not conservative enough. You're not Christian enough. And they would get their own little homeland, and it would break up in 10 years. Just look at the Republican Party, and that's a fact. That would happen. So I'm not a huge Democrat. I like more of some of the Democratic people that work in the thing. I'm definitely not with the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Trumpers. That is, they keep talking about Christian nationalism. That's what the founding fathers ran from. That's exactly what they ran from. And now these people are, because they're saying it's patriotic. And it's so with that Republican Party saying they're not racist, the Republican Party has done one thing amazingly, and that is they convinced working class people that they're really for them. And they used this Trump guy. They used this Trump guy to, not that they figured how to do it. And now they have these ravenous Trumpers that are saying they're Republicans. And if you really knew that Republicans are just for big business, that is their job. That's what they're paid by lobbyists and unions to do, is to make sure that big businesses, that's a fact. And they trick them by using these little social issues. Mr. Potato Head dropping the Mr., and he's one thing more I want to say about that, man, is when I was a neo-Nazi, it was my consumption, my brain. Sorry. That was the consumption in my brain. When I woke up in the morning, I thought about it. Couldn't wait to read about it. Couldn't wait to talk about it. When I heard words like affirmative action, that was a big one back then when I was in the neo-Nazis, right? I heard affirmative action. This thing came over me, man. I was ready to verbally brawl and seriously, it was I waited for these little words. Go around any Trumpers, man, and say the word like Nancy Pelosi. The same thing happens to them. It's like, whoop,
yeah,
done. Party's ruined. Party's ruined. If you at a party, you happen to say something, you said Nancy Pelosi, there's now going to be an argument because, and they're like, so man, they got them, man. And I think eventually, sorry, going for a long answer for this. I think eventually we're gonna get through this, man. Like we really are. It's the idol, because that's again all Donald Trump is like we're not dumb enough to fall for a golden calf, but we're not smart enough to not fall for a fake bronze colored man to save the world. So it's just an idol, and he'll eventually crash, and because all idols crash and burn in this place. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean any harm on him. I'm just saying the idol image will crash and burn. And 5 years, 10 years from now, people will be like the Trumpers were. You still see an old car with an old Trump thing on it. And what are you going to know? Here's the deal with how we're all becoming one race, and this is just in our lifetime. Is you've got to know this, that you can have, if you have children right now, you could say, man, I ain't letting my kids marry outside my race. Maybe they won't. Maybe because of your racism they won't. Maybe, but it's definitely going to happen. Wait until you see who your grandkids bring home. Wait until you see who your great grandkids bring home. And are you going to be that old racist guy that they have to hide their love for a person around you because you're just an old racist Trumper? Is that what you want from your great grandkids? Because that's what's coming, and that's what they got. They have those guys right now, and that's what's going to be on in 10 years, man, once this all crashes. But we just got to stick together. We all, we got to stick together in this country. And it's also helpful when it's white people. And I mean this on all honesty. When I just said all that stuff about police reform, I was pretty on point. And most of my brothers and sisters are gonna be like, have always kept saying, Frank, you keep speaking, you keep talking. Seriously, all throughout the thing, people are always like, yo, you're one person we want to keep talking. It is all of our job to make sure that we listen right now. That's the one thing I could say about the Black community is you go through all of our great Black leaders we've had, Malcolm X, Martin, who else we got? Fred Hampton, Huey Newton, James Baldwin. I mean, all of them, dude, all of them dudes, they all talked about police brutality. Yeah. All of them. And we're still not listening because it's still happening. So when it's people like myself, this is where I think we start to make amends with each other because you're like, yo, I'm listening. I'm saying the things that I know that you all have been saying. And I make sure that I use my story at the end, always go, here's why I'm telling you my story is that they're not lying to us. When I was a kid, man, I grew up and I was abused. And I used to tell people, and people would say, oh, maybe it's not that bad. Or maybe, no. I had to go home every day, no matter what. I would tell people, well, maybe you deserved it a little bit. Maybe you shouldn't have did that one thing, whatever. In the Black, and what happened to me? I became a neo-Nazi. Now, I'm not saying this bad about the Black community. I'm saying the Black community's been telling us for so long. And that will drive people crazy to be like, yo, we're telling you this is happening to us. We're showing you. Look at these videos. We're showing you it's not stopping. And we're still like, wow, I don't know. Well, you just kind of are, and it's like, no, it's time to listen. And maybe if we fix these problems, it'll help with other problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's my job. So.
Definitely. Frank, thank you so much. I recommend everybody to check out your book about your life, the autobiography of a recovering skinhead. I always enjoyed seeing you speak. I can't wait to see you speak in Florida. Thank you so much for joining me via Zoom. And anybody you want to shout out?
No, man, just pray, man. Everyone, man, if you get a chance, just throw up a prayer to the big guy. Whoever you pray to, man. He wants to hear from us. And so maybe ask him to help us with some of these problems and maybe it'll work.
Most definitely. Cool. Beautiful message. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Love you.